They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! With 0.6 of a second remaining.
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the Outlet Pass Podcast. I am your resident JT McConnell, the homie's homie. More importantly, my real name, Justin DiVirgilio, and this is a special edition of the Outlet Pass Podcast, a bonus episode, if you will. I am joined by a special guest, anchor, host, reporter on NBC Sports Philly, NBC 10 Philadelphia, and the Sixers Talk podcast, Danny Pommells. Danny, how are you doing this afternoon?
Justin, I'm solid, bro. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
No problem. Thank you for coming on again. And before we get into the Sixers and everything, I would like to ask you, I was going through your Twitter bio, and you have something that relates to me. French fries are king.
Yeah, man. I'm a big fry person. I feel like the fries make the meal, bro. Honestly, it's just something you can always depend on, being rock solid. They're so versatile. I don't like them, with a bunch of, some people do like mayo and like all types of other nonsense, like the poutine and stuff like that. I don't like my fries soggy. I like them crispy, and I like them, ketchup, barbecue sauce, Old Bay. The seasonings are very, I can be liberal with, but as far as the condiments, I stick with the ketchup and the barbecue sauce. But I like my fries crispy, and that's why I only order, when I order delivery on the French fries, I only get it from certain places where I know they'll be crunchy when the time they arrive. Because when you open that container and the fries are soggy, it's a big disappointment.
Okay, so no microwavable fries for you. You can't heat them back up.
No, that's a violation, bro. You can heat them back up. They got to go in the oven though, and you got to finesse them a little bit. You got to maybe you might have to do like the foil, curled around it a little bit. You know what I mean? So they don't get too, hard. You got to finesse it a little bit.
Okay, so
got to get your temperature right.
So don't hang up on me right now, because I've violated that many times. I've done the microwavable.
I'm only speaking from experience, bro. I'm speaking because I've done it. But when you try to recapture that vibe that you got when you first ate them, it's so disappointing when you take them out the microwave and they all soggy and mushy. That's not what you were looking for. You were looking to recapture the glory.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So the reason I thought that related to me, because in my house, my grandmother, since I was a youngin', I'm still young, but when I was very, very little, I was called the French Fry King. Actually, the other day, she called me the French Fry King because we were eating fries. So I knew we had other things, those things in common, like the Sixers, but I was like, wow, somebody relates with French fries just as much as I do. That's one of my favorite foods from when I was younger.
Yeah, man, it's a layup, bro. It's definitely a layup, and I'll do the frozen fries too. I'll hit you with a little, I'll do the sweet potato Johns or the tater tots, or I got a few varieties. I'm not mad at the
You're versatile.
Johns either. Yeah.
Guarding 1 through 4 on French fries.
Right. Positionless French fries. Yes.
For sure. Now, first things first. I'm sure you talked about it a lot. What are your season expectations for the Sixers this season?
It's got to be finals or bust for me, bro.
Winning or going?
Well, they got to get out of the East. That's kind of like the baseline for me. I would say their best chance at winning the championship is this season, and not because of the stacked roster that they have, not because they signed Al Horford, not because Josh Richardson looks like a beast and Matisse Thybulle as well. It's because Kevin Durant is looming, bro. There's an argument that people are making that he could possibly be the best player in the NBA over the last 10 years, 12 years. So that if you look at the numbers and the 50, 40, 90 seasons and the championships, it's hard to argue. So I just feel like when he comes back next season and when he's in the East for these next few seasons, it's going to be a hard 50-50 coin flip for them to get to the championship. So I think if they're going to win it all, it needs to be this season. I feel like the West is going to beat themselves up. and whoever comes out of the West is going to be battered and bruised, while the Sixers have the opportunity to hand deliver their best player, Joel Embiid, to the postseason. And if you saw the way he was working out on the Pistons, man, he was giving them the whole repertoire.
Oh, I did.
And, man, good gracious. And I just feel like if you're able to deliver Joel Embiid to the playoffs, having not played many back-to-backs, well rested and ready to play, you got the deepest team and most versatile, longest team you've ever had. The Sixers are in prime position. They got to get past the Bucks, but I think the Bucks made a mistake letting Malcolm Brogdon go and re-signing Eric Bledsoe. So I'm seeing the Sixers with 60 wins this season, man. 60 wins.
Ooh, all right. Four more than myself. That's interesting.
I think they can get to 60, bro. I think they can get to 60.
That is very interesting. Now, I did see last night Embiid working against the Pistons. I was happy to go to the game and actually sit on the floor, closest I've ever been. So it was very, very great seeing the Sixers. You have them getting the 1 seed, I guess, so 60 wins, that would equate to that.
Yeah, I don't think the Bucks are better than them. I don't know if they've quite solved Giannis Antetokounmpo, but at the moment, I see them being better than the Bucks. Yeah,
I see the Bucks being a better regular season team because of familiarity and everything like that. So
that's possible.
Let's move on. You mentioned him already, Matisse Thybulle. What are your thoughts on his good early impression? He's averaging 5.6 steals and 2.8 blocks per 36 minutes this preseason, and you interviewed him about a month ago, right, on your Sixers Talk podcast.
Not even that. It was about 2 weeks ago during media day. And, I mean, what's not to like about the dude? It's funny. We're doing a podcast today as well, the Sixers Talk podcast. We're taping it around 5 o'clock. And one of the topics I want to get into is just where Matisse really fits in with this team, because originally we thought he would be battling for minutes with Shake Milton, Zaire Smith, those guys on that kind of like that third tier of the Sixers rotation. But James Ennis and Mike Scott better watch out, because he could be the first dude off the bench, man. He could be in the starting rotation on some nights, because at the moment he has 14 steals in the NBA preseason, which leads the league. He broke the Pac-12 record for all-time steals held by Gary Payton for like 30 years. He broke Jason Kidd's single-season steals record. He was a Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, back-to-back Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. So this isn't just new to him. This isn't a drop in the pan. This isn't a fluke. This is what he does, bro. This is what he does. He plays the passing lanes. He turns defense into offense. He deflects balls. He scores in transition as well and can shoot the three, bro. I mean, this is a guy that Elton Brand has had his eye on since high school, and you can see why. But also Carson Edwards, he had 8 threes.
I know, I saw it.
In a single quarter for the Boston Celtics, 30 points, 8 threes in 5 minutes and 6 seconds of basketball time. So, wow. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because the Sixers had a chance to draft him. A lot of people liked him. Yeah. And he obviously serves the need of scoring that the Sixers have lacked. But I think they addressed that with Josh Richardson. And hopefully Tobias Harris can get his act together, because he's been cold this preseason. But Thybulle also impacts the game in a similar way. So as in he can show instant gratification when he's out there on the floor. The same with Carson Edwards. I don't see Carson Edwards being a starter for the Celtics, this early in his career, where I can see that for Thybulle. So it's kind of 6 to 1, half dozen the other when that argument goes. But we'll get into it on the Sixers Talk podcast. But he's just so impressive, man. Easy to talk to. He's easy to like. He's humble. He knows how good he can be, and he's ready to play the role for the Sixers team, man. I mean, I'm really bullish on this kid, man.
I was watching the game yesterday because I believe pregame or the day before, he was talking about, somebody asked him about how he plays defense. He says a lot of the way that he does get steals and blocks is that he makes mistakes a lot of the time. He has the ability to recover. And I noticed it a couple times yesterday, and that. I'm sorry to put a little damper on it, but I'm waiting to see, and I love him already. Just you said basically everything I could have said. I'm just waiting to see. I'm waiting to see when he struggles for like 3 games, and then he bounces back. Because this is the good part about Matisse is it's the first good first-round pick the Sixers have had in a long time that wasn't supposed to be a layup. Like you said, Carson Edwards was a heavily favored guy for the Sixers to pick. But they traded up with the boys in Beantown to get someone that fit the identity that the Sixers want to show to the NBA.
Man, I mean, just think about, the stat my producer for Sixers pre- and post-game live, Brian Brennan, blessed us with. So the Sixers won 51 games last season, we all know. Wilson Chandler started 32 games for them. Markelle Fultz started 15. Jonah Bolden started 10. The East is worse overall. Barring any injury, the Sixers will be massively better. The over-under win total in Vegas is 54.5. So I think we know. You said 4 more wins than you had, so you have the over on that as well. So I think we both need to put some money down on that.
Yeah, maybe.
And part of the reason why they'll be better is because they'll have guys like Thybulle to depend on, as opposed to Wilson Chandler, who's in the waning stages of his career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They won't have Markelle Fultz in there or Jonah Bolden starting that many games.
Yeah, no offense to Wilson Chandler, but I'm sure some people forgot that he played for the Sixers last year, and might forget he plays right now because he's serving a 25-game suspension with the Nets.
Right.
Now, what kind of rotation do you think the Sixers will have to begin the season up until December or Christmas? Because I wrote an article on SixerSense.com that they could employ a 10 to 11-man rotation because it's auditioning time for the bench in the regular season.
Yeah, you got the starting 5, and you got Matisse, Mike Scott, and James Ennis. We've seen James Ennis really, give them some positive minutes off the bench. Mike Scott, I'm looking for a shot to start falling more, so I'm not sure if he'll be the first off the bench, or Ennis or Thybulle right there. And you got to bring along these young kids, Zaire, Shake Milton, Jonah Bolden, and I'm looking at Norvell Pell is a guy who could get some time as well.
Best fourth quarter in the preseason ever.
Yeah, right. So you look at this dude, and he's deflecting shots and being a defensive stopper that they need, and can spell Joel if need be. Kyle O'Quinn, a guy who had 11 rebounds last night as well. But I just feel like the rotation wise, they can go as deep as Brett Brown wants them to be. I don't know if he's quite of that ilk to play that many guys, but it'll be interesting to see how he handles the rotation. Obviously, this is the best roster he's ever had with this Sixers team. But sometimes I feel like, they're big and they're long, and they got done in by guys who could dribble the basketball and score off the dribble, little guards particularly. So I'm interested to see when the shots aren't falling, because they lost some shooting with J.J. Redick. When Tobias is off, who's going to be stroking jump shots, for this team? That's something I'm definitely interested in. It's weird that you got a guy like Al Horford. He made 73 threes last year. That's 6 more threes than Jimmy Butler made last year. So it just gives you – so Tobias might not have the stroke early on, or if that were to happen, I see Al Horford picking up some of that slack, but I don't know how much they can depend on that. So rotation, that's a good question, man. I don't think they'll go that deep, 10 or 11, but they could. And I see Brett Brown using guys in spot situations.
All right. Now, you mentioned that who will be the guy to get the offense going when it's not. That was kind of an issue in the second quarter area of last night's game against the Pistons. Of course, it's preseason, but you saw it happen, and they had to go to Embiid. They wanted to get deep catches, and Tobias Harris was posting up a little bit more, getting to the middle of the paint area. So my next question, you mentioned threes as well. What was your reaction to Ben Simmons' first ever three? I know what mine was, and I was going nuts because I was at that game as well.
I was at home with my son, and I left the room to go do something in the kitchen. Maybe I was making dinner. I have no idea. But I was multitasking, that was for sure. And he came in the room saying that Ben Simmons hit a three. I thought he was lying. And he was so excited, so I kind of could see through. I thought he was trying to set me up, but I could kind of see through the fact that, he's really excited. and he's actually an Oklahoma City Thunder fan. So for him to be that excited, it was pretty remarkable.
Is that okay? Is that okay that he's a Thunder fan? Side question.
You know what it is? It's funny because you got these kids, growing up nowadays in a different era of Philly sports where, my son's 11, so he grew up through the process. Like, there's no one to root for. Like, why would he not like Russell Westbrook, who's electrifying and dynamic, and like Jaleel Okafor or Nerlens Noel or Tony Roten? You know what I mean? He is actually a Nerlens fan, but he grew up in a tough era. Even with the Phillies at the time, is he a Don Brown fan? Like, who does he hang his head on? You know what I mean?
A Ty Wigginton fan?
Yeah, this is the point.
I could pull out names.
I was like 2 days away from buying him a Deshaun Jackson poster for his room when he was maybe like 2 or 3 or whatever it was, and they traded him, or 5, maybe it was 5.
Yeah,
and they traded Deshaun or released him. And I was like, well, where do I go now? Like, Shady's gone, Jeremy Macklin's gone, Deshaun. I'm trying to buy him a poster of somebody who I think's going to be sticking around for a while.
Yeah.
And but it was a tough era. But
that's okay.
To answer your question, I do feel like the Sixers. Oh, I forgot what your question was. I apologize.
Reaction to the Ben Simmons 3 after making dinner and realized your son was not lying.
So he was not lying. I rewound it back. I looked at it like 6 times to make sure it was legit, and to try to get the scenario, because I know what it was, because the quarter was winding down, so I figured I had a chance to just like walk into the kitchen and miss like the last few seconds. But Ben strokes a 3. Everybody was egging him on. Joel almost picked him up off the ground when he hit it. It was great, man.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty good. I'm hoping to see it more in the regular season. Speaking of point guards, who is your pick to win the backup point guard job out of Trey Burke and Paul Neto, or is it Raul Neto?
You got it right. It's an H, or pronounced like an H.
Okay, Raul Neto.
You know what? I think they lose a little bit they gain offense with Trey Burke, but they lose a bit of defense with Burke over Neto. So, I mean, Brett Brown started Josh Richardson at the point guard, and Trey Burke was the first sub off the bench. Now, offensively, we saw him get his own shot a few times. If you kind of get a glimpse, you might think it was like Iverson a little bit. He kind of resembles Iverson a little bit.
He wears the questions.
He has the questions on. It's just so funny. His haircut kind of looks like Iverson from his rookie year, but and he kind of has the crossover. He kind of leans to one side the way Iverson did on his crossover a little bit. But anyway, I think Raul Neto.
Okay.
I think we're going to see more of combo guard Josh Richardson than we do like straight up backup point guard. But I'm thinking it's Raul Neto kind of wins it, because I would think Brett Brown was going to want somebody who can distribute the basketball more than score it, because you'll get the scoring from other areas with Embiid and Tobias and Josh. But I could see Trey Burke coming in, maybe playing a little off guard as well. So
there's definitely a slew of possibilities. Final question: your personal favorite new addition Sixer?
You know what, bro? I gotta go with Matisse, man. Josh Richardson and Matisse were probably neck and neck for a little while, because I love Josh's work ethic. I love the way he approaches the game of basketball, because he was not a highly heralded recruit. He had to work for everything he got, and he still values that. But Matisse Thybulle, he's the real deal, man. And not that Josh Richardson isn't. He's risen his points per game average every year he's been in the league. He averaged 16 a game last year. I don't think many people realize that. But I just look at Thybulle as the visualization of a lot of things, of the Sixers drafting properly, of a guy that they identified a long time ago that fits what they want. He is easygoing. You listen to the interview we did. Like, my daughter bumped into him in Rittenhouse Square when he's taking photos, and he takes a picture with my daughter, and that's her screensaver. So I think my household is Team Matisse. So I think I got to jump on board with that, man. I'm interested to see Thybulle and the impact he has.
Yeah, I have the same answer as you. It's either Matisse or Josh Richardson. I gotta determine. Maybe opening night may swing it very heavily. Well,
Right.
Danny, thank you for coming on. You want to let the people know where they can find you and listen to you and watch you?
Yeah, man. You can watch me Wednesday through Sundays. I'm only off Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesday through Sunday, you can catch me on Sportsnet Central. I do a very amount of things. So Sportsnet Central on Saturdays and Sundays, definitely on NBC 10, 6 and 11. And follow me at D Pommells, NBCS. First initial, last name, and NBCS. S is for sports. So.
All right. Thank you, Danny.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
No problem. That has been the Outlet Pass Podcast. You can follow the podcast at the Outlet Pass Podcast on Instagram and on Twitter at Pass Podcast. Me on Twitter at @J DiVirgilio on Twitter and Instagram. On the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, comment, all that good stuff. This has been the Outlet Pass Podcast, the ball being our opinions, and we're passing it out to you. Peace.